The Game Week 5 wildcard has become a popular strategy by FPL managers during this international break. And if you have currently activated that chip, you are in luck, as I will be revealing the best wildcard draft that you can build. And if you haven't activated it, I still think this will offer a lot of value, as you'll get an idea of how the template may be forming from Game Week 5 onwards for those managers that may be wildcarding. So as always, guys, please do consider smashing a like on the video, aim for 200 on this video. And as always, if you're enjoying the channel, be amazing if we could have you as a subscriber. Aim for 10k before that Game Week 5 deadline. So without further ado, let's get into this wildcard draft. Okay guys, so first up, the goalkeepers. Now, for those that have been following my own personal team, I've been going for the Pickford-Turner combination, and if you're in that position like myself, it is glorious to look at other goalkeepers that we can buy. And at the time of recording right now, I think that this combination is the best that we can go for from a value perspective. Leno of Fulham rotating with West Ham to Areola, I believe, is the perfect combination. Now, I'm going to put the fixture rotation on the screen here so you can see what we are going to get over the next 6 game weeks. So, game weeks 5, you'll have Luton at home for Leno, and then game week 6 away against Crystal Palace. Game week 7, we'll have Areola at home against Sheffield United. Game week 8, Leno at home against Sheffield United once again. And then we would have Areola away against Aston Villa and at home against Everton in game week 10. So over that period, you'll get some fantastic fixtures for teams that I do back defensively. Now, I know Fulham have had a few question marks, obviously the Paulino potential transfer, which fell through. But I still back them defensively. They have good, decent underlying numbers, and West Ham in general are looking like a solid team, especially with the inclusion of Alvarez in that CDM role. I think it just enhances them as a team, and if they've done decent in these opening few fixtures, I think they could do well when we do play Areola in game week 7, game week 9 and game week 10. Now, it's worth noting, if you want to spend a bit more, I like Nick Pope at 5.5 million, but I think only spending 8.6 million. It's just a nice use of your money. You don't have to go over the 9.5 million value of your goalkeepers. And I think these rotate really, really well. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I know this is a popular combination, but based on the fixtures, it just makes sense. Okay, then, so next up we have our defenders, and finally, Kieran Trippier is back on our radar. It's been a tough start for Newcastle in the opening parts of the season. However, I do think Trippier time is coming in. Newcastle are beginning a really nice run of long-term fixtures, and we know Trippier as an FPL option is just an unbelievable asset on set pieces, a bonus point magnet, and I would say Newcastle defensively are a pretty sound team. And at 6.5 million, I do like Botman at 2 million cheaper, but right now it's worth noting the injury status is a little bit unclear. So if you are stripped for cash a little bit, I think Botman is a great pick, and also Fabian Schär at 5 million is also a great option. But sometimes when you're investing in the defense and cash isn't really a problem for some squads out there, I think you just pay the extra and you go for the player that, even if he isn't going to keep a clean sheet, has that real high upside that we know he can deliver in previous seasons. The one thing I would say is I'm a little bit hesitant about Newcastle with the Champions League on the horizon, especially the group stage that they have. Unbelievably tricky fixtures. So we may see some rotation from time to time. Maybe Livramento will get some Premier League minutes, but until we see that, I think Trippier is a safe option. Now, going through the other defenders that I've selected, I think Kabore is a great option still at 4 million. Remember, they double in game week 7. So I think we are actually going to play Kabore in that game week 7 double, which makes complete sense. We're not expecting a lot, but 180 minutes of any player is an attractive thing when we are looking to play them. Udogie still at 4.7 million. Now, the Spurs fixtures are a little bit ropey. Great game week 5 fixture at home against Sheffield United, but game week 6 away against Arsenal and game week 7 at home against Liverpool is tough. But it's worth noting, with this combination of defenders, you can easily bench Udogie over game week 6 and 7, knowing that you have great fixtures with the other defenders. And it's worth noting, this wildcard would lean towards a back 3 rather than a back 4 most of the times, just because of the strength of the midfielders. Udogie still the pick of the Spurs defenders in my eyes. Matty Cash as well. Villa fixtures are good long term, and I think they're quite good from a defensive perspective. Now, Villa have been a little bit hot and cold, but with Matty Cash in the team, he's either playing as an attacking right back or even a right winger at times. And I think knowing that he has that luxury of being either a defensive option or even an attacking option in those teams, because we've seen him already score goals, is a really, really beneficial thing to have from an FPL perspective. And I think right now, if you're wildcarding, Matty Cash is just that high upside pick that I don't think we can ignore. And last up is going to be Rico Henry. Now, he was kind of the one I had to shoehorn in this defense. I don't really like the look of any of the defenders in the game. I can't really justify going for a Man City Arsenal defender, really. I think Henry offers a good option because in the weeks where we have tricky fixtures for the other defenders, he steps in quite nicely with this rotation. So here's his defense for the wildcard. I'm pretty happy with this, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are there any big defenders that I have missed out on? Right, moving swiftly into the wildcard midfielders, and this is the one that is honestly been the biggest headache ever trying to assemble a 5-man midfield, because honestly, I would not argue anybody with going the different options that we have available to us. So first and foremost, the structure of the midfield. There's a few options that I believe are pretty important if you are building a wildcard team. I think having an Arsenal midfielder is pretty essential. I just think Arsenal in general are just one of those teams that you are going to look at and think, I need a piece of that attack. So I think ignoring their midfielders is just not a wise decision. So I think an Arsenal midfielder is just kind of like essential. I think a Spurs midfielder is also pretty essential. The game week 5 at home against Sheffield United, you just can't go into that game without some sort of investment in it. And we know in game week 8, they have their away game against Luton as well. So you're going to want a piece of the pie then. So getting an Arsenal and a Spurs midfielder is pretty locked in. And I still think Man United are worth investing in. As you can see with my wildcard draft here, I think having one of those is still the route to go for. And I think the inclusion of Højlund in that attack, basically they've been playing with 10 men without Anthony Martial in the team, I think he's just going to improve and enhance the other options in the midfield. So I think having those 3 options are pretty locked in. And Mbeumo is just one of those players right now who is just impossible to ignore. On penalties, Brentford playing well this season, and he's playing 90 minutes. And at that price point right now, I still don't think you've missed the boat with Mbeumo. I think there are still points to come, so don't be put off. Yes, you could go for alternatives. I think Aston Villa's Diaby at a slight cheaper price is a brilliant alternative. But end of the day, 90-minute man on penalties, highly owned, very, very difficult to ignore. So here's what the headaches have been. First and foremost, as you can see, I have gone for the double Man United attack. Now, I'm going to put the fixtures up on your screen right now for Man United and Spurs, because simply for me, it's a straight shootout. You either go for double Spurs, 1 Man United, or double Man United, 1 Spurs. Now, here are the pros and cons. The reason why I think you should go for double Spurs midfield, and it would be Son and Maddison as a combination, is to just absolutely double down on game week 5 at home against Sheffield United. Because the way Spurs are playing right now, in the attacking fluency they got, they could easily score another 4 or 5 against Sheffield United. And having double up is going to be an amazing differential, because most managers out there, if they're not wildcarded, will most likely have Maddison and a few will have Son. If you own both, you are really going to enjoy that game. Then after that, 6 and 7 aren't necessarily the best. Now, I understand people talking about Arsenal away, North London derby. They fancy Spurs to get something there. But end of the day, it's still a tough old fixture. And then Liverpool at home. I think a lot of people are thinking that Spurs are going to score a few goals against Liverpool, who are defensively quite frail. But I still think this Liverpool team are a very, very good team. So I wouldn't be saying right now confidently that Spurs are going to score 3 or 4 against Liverpool by any stretch. But remember, after those 2 tough games, Luton away. So I absolutely get it if you want to go for the double Spurs midfield. I honestly am 50-50 right now on that decision. The reason why I've just leaned towards the Man United midfield double up is, first and foremost, the underlying numbers for both of these players are really solid. Bruno Fernandes in particular is one of the biggest underperformers in the game right now. And with the inclusion of Højlund, I know I'm becoming a little bit kind of off one game week, very come to conclusions here, but I do think Man United are going to improve with having an asset like Højlund who actually causes problems for the defence. It's going to free up space for Bruno. It's going to free up space for Rashford. Right now, Anthony Martial is doing nothing for the team. And I think having a player like Højlund who can run beyond, can link up play, is just going to enhance Man United as a team. And I think over the next 4 game weeks, they are on par, if not better than Spurs. Now, I wouldn't say they necessarily have a fixture that is as good as Sheffield United at home. But Brighton, I do believe, are a team that Man United will really hurt in transitional phases. I think Brighton will dominate the game from a possession point of view, but I think Man United have the tools. We saw Brighton get hurt against West Ham with that counter-attack. I think Man United could do a very similar thing against Brighton. Burnley have not proved to be defensively sound. That is a good fixture of Man United. Palace at home followed by Brentford. Two tricky games on paper, but over that period, I would expect the Man United double up to do quite well. So no judgments here. I think the Spurs double up is fantastic. And realistically, if there was a team who were going to score 10, 12 goals over that period and two of those games being 5 goals, it would be the Sheffield United and Luton game. So I understand people going for that double up. I'm just going to lean for the Man United one, just because I think longer term the fixtures are a little bit better. Son, for me, if you're wildcarding, is the pick of the bunch in that Spurs midfield. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I've avoided Foden. I just don't really want to go there for Man City. I just don't think he's doing enough right now to justify it. There are other options out there in the game, but I think this 5 alongside Maddison and maybe a Diaby is the route that I would consider. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And last up, we have got the forwards. Now, Haaland is just a non-negotiable. If you're considering going without him, you are a maniac. Please do not go without Erling Haaland, because he's basically still a perma-captain option for our teams. Now, the one that I have been pulling my hair out is the second forward spot. I've currently gone for Julian Alvarez, but honestly, there are 3 or 4 options that I would consider alongside him. I think firstly, Gabriel Jesus is a really nice differential, but it's worth noting you would need to have accumulated a lot of team value in order to invest in Gabriel Jesus with the midfield structure that I've gone for. As I mentioned, you could downgrade a Bruno Fernandes or a Rashford to Maddison, and I think that would then free up the funds to go to a Gabriel Jesus as well, which I really like that route if you want to go down it. I also really like the option of Darwin Núñez. Now, I'm not sure if I'm just being a little bit kind of excited about his recent appearances and his featured performances, but I really think if you're wildcarding right now and your rank isn't where you want it to be, Darwin Núñez is that player that nobody is going to own, and he honestly could fly through the mini leagues if he does hit the ground running. For me, Jurgen Klopp, I think, is going to play him. Now, of course, we are making assumptions here, but I just believe Liverpool are such a better team when they have someone like a Darwin Núñez in that side who is causing chaos. My only problem is early substitutions is absolutely a thing with Darwin Núñez. 70-minute mark is usually his kind of point that he comes off. So just be careful with that if you are going down the Darwin Núñez route. But for me, Julian Alvarez is ticking all the boxes. He's playing a lot of minutes for Man City. Until we actually see him getting rotated, I don't think we need to have that assumption that he will right now. At the end of the day, Man City is still the best team in this league, and the fixtures are still really good for them. I think there are going to be a lot of fixtures where if you go for the Jesus or Darwin Núñez, you look at that Man City fixture thinking, oh, I wish I had more than just Erling Haaland in that game. So I'm currently leaning towards Alvarez, but I do think if you have a lot of team value in the bank, then maybe going for the Darwin Núñez or even up into the Gabriel Jesus is a really nice route if you want to go that direction. And the other one's Cameron Archer. Now, it's worth noting, I do think Carlton Morris is a good pick because he double game weeks in 7. But for me, because you're going for the midfield 5 and you're not going to play him over your second forward, you're kind of investing 5.5 million to bench him in 5, bench him in 6, simply to play him in game week 7. And who knows what could happen over that period. I think it's quite a lot of money to invest. And for me, what I'd much rather do is build a wildcard squad for the now. And then when we come to game week 7, maybe in 5 or 6, roll that free transfer. Then to give yourself the opportunity, if you want to maybe upgrade Archer to a Morris or downgrade an Alvarez to him. I don't think you need to invest him in a game week 5 wildcard team right now, because you're simply just investing $1 million more than you should do. And you're affecting the balance of the rest of your squad. So here is the team. What I want to do is just quickly show you how the team would look in 5, 6, 7, 8, just to show you how it would rotate without any transfers. Okay, so first up, game week 5. If we had this wildcard draft, here is how it would look. Now, it's worth noting, looking at a Man City double up, I do think West Ham are a tough cookie. So I understand if you look at it and think, maybe I don't want Julian Alvarez in that game, and I understand it, but I still fancy Man City against any team. They are just so head and shoulders above everyone else. And we got the investment in the other good fixtures. Son with that great home fixture. Mbeumo, tricky game away against Newcastle. But again, I'm not as bullish with Newcastle right now. I just think with the fixture run coming up, it's a good opportunity to jump into a Kieran Trippier, for example. The defence looks good. Udogie and Matty Cash with Leno at home against Luton, which we would assume would be a clean sheet, fingers crossed. Now, looking at game week 6, this is how the team would look. And again, I think the defenders are looking pretty solid. The one that I would have question marks about is Matty Cash away against Chelsea. You could easily bring in Kabore if you wanted to for that fixture at home against Wolves. Because at the end of the day, I think if they were to get a result at home, I think Wolves is a nice fixture maybe to play your defensive asset if you want to go down that route. Otherwise, the team's looking good. I like the Man United fixture away against Burnley. We know Son has a tricky game away against Arsenal, and of course Arsenal with Saka at home against Tottenham. But look, this is why I find it very difficult to go without Julian Alvarez, because in game week 6, he's at home against Nottingham Forest. Now again, Champions League is going to come into the equation, but if you went for Jesus, the exact same problem would be in your head. If you went for a Darwin Núñez, the minutes we know are at risk. So I think all forward options are slightly dodgy. I just think with that game week 6 fixture home against Nottingham Forest, I want a bit more from that Man City attack, and that's why I like the double up in this area. Now moving into game week 7, squad still looks really strong, and again, this is where any transfers. Areola at home against Sheffield United. You have the double Luton there with Kabore, which, yes, I would play him over a Rico Henry or a Udogie. Trippier and Cash with fantastic fixtures. Cash, maybe not defensively, but offensively, I think he does. And the midfield looks great. I've spoken about Spurs. I think they could do trouble against Liverpool at home. And again, Man City away against Wolves. What a fantastic fixture once again for them to have. Yes, rotation could happen, but until we get to that point, I don't want to sweat about the situation with Julian Alvarez. And they're coming into game week 8, once again, some fantastic fixtures for the team. Now, the one standout is, of course, Man City against Arsenal. And maybe this is the time to move away from a Julian Alvarez potentially and invest in another team who maybe are emerging as the route to go for. Again, long time down the road, we can assess that situation when we get to it. But again, Spurs away against Luton, potential Son captaincy, maybe with Haaland away against Arsenal. Otherwise, the squad is looking really good. And finally, game week 9, I know it's a little bit in the distance, but some more fantastic fixtures for this team. So as you can see, I think this team long-term does really well. And if we chuck in a few free transfers just to kind of manage the injuries or jumping on other fixtures, this long-term looks like a brilliant wildcard team. As I discussed, there are a few tweaks you can make, investing in the double Spurs midfield maybe, going for a different forward other than Julian Alvarez. But realistically, I think this wildcard team is not too far away from a very, very good team. Okay guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. I really hope it has provided some value to you. And let me know in the comments, have you activated your wildcard or are you considering it? Myself, I am looking to do it in game week 9, but this has gave me a bit of food for thought. Thankfully, I do have a lot of investment in the players that we already have spoken about in this video, so I feel comfortable not wildcarding right now. Thank you so much for tuning into the video. If you can drop a like and smash the subscribe button, it would be massively appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.